My role at Birst is the Managing Director of Asia Pacific and Japan. What essentially that means is making our customers as successful as possible. So that starts from the very first meeting before they're a customer, right the way through to those renewals, those subscriptions. We're a subscription business, so we're constantly focusing on, from the beginning to the end, which hopefully never ends, of our customer success. You know, if you look at software as a job, software engineering comes into play. So the very early days I was working in storage and backup, and then since 1998 I've been in the business intelligence world and analytics. And so from an engineering perspective, someone has to make that software. But what's happened certainly over the last 10 years, or you could even say 5 years, is the consumerization. And that's been talked about a lot in the industry and a lot of people, but the combination of consumer and engineering, this is the big change I see happening over that time, over that 21-year period, where software was the domain of engineers, and now it's the domain of consumers. You know, my 10-year-old son can go onto a website and build an app. My 18-year-old daughter doesn't expect to be trained when she goes into corporate land on these engineered products. She expects them to behave like a consumer, like a Facebook or a Twitter, where there isn't any training courses, as far as I'm aware, of using those products. So I think that's the biggest thing I've seen, is that, you know, software runs business, software runs your life in some applications, but the convergence of engineering and consumerization, that's certainly been the biggest trend that's been continuing. Another one that I would see is the central versus decentral. So mainframe to open systems to internet, you know, so the answer I'd say is cyclical. You know, the industry is very cyclical. It goes from everything being controlled centrally to everything being pushed out to users. And those two trends, you could argue, are the same thing. You've got the corporate governance and engineering of how we make sure our business is governed and managed and scaled and engineered in that sense, versus the users, the business people, the 7 billion people around the world saying, I don't really care too much about governance, I just want to get things done in my emotional sense. So I would say there's a lot of trends you've seen along there. BI, business intelligence, big data, which is the world that I live in and have done for a long time. The biggest trends I've seen there is that combination of engineering and consumerization, where if you go back 15 years ago, people were talking about data warehouses, and then they made them dirty, and now they're coming back in again, where governance and then consumerization, so the discovery, visualization environments, and then the big structured environments. The other big trend we see in business intelligence is this term big data. Lots of debate, and I don't want to get into that now, Raoul, about what is big data, because I think that's been exhausted over the last 3 years. But what it's definitely done, it's changed the game in terms of the way that customers view their data. There's a race right now. The race to capture as much information and data about anything is happening. The customers that we have and that we're working with, they don't see data as they did 5 years ago. They see it not just as a competitive advantage, but they want to capture and learn as much as they can. One of our customers here in Singapore, a very large real estate company, the #1 property platform in Singapore, their CIO said something very interesting to me. He says, we're about to monetize 7 years of behavioral data. And up in India, if you talk about, you know, the large e-commerce companies, the ones that are equivalent to Alibaba, they're really taking data and seeing it as their core business, rather than as an e-commerce vendor, rather than it being a sort of adjunct to their business. So they're almost setting up a data business, and then they're becoming an e-commerce company. So I think that's a really big trend, is that companies, certainly over the last 10 years, and big data has been a good sort of banner over that, to say, move data not just as something that is an output of your business activity, but put it into the center. And if you're going to put data into the center, you need systems, companies, partners like Birst to be able to operationalize that data as it comes. So one of our customers over in the US, Citrix, they have a supply chain problem. But supply chain problem is about how do you operationalize brand new data coming in all the time. I've got forecasts from one place, I've got manufacturing data in a different place. The Citrix project that we did with them had over 215 data sources, and every week 5 new ones. How do you manage that? Would you engineer the problem like you used to 10 years ago into a big data warehouse? No, because you need 5 new sources coming in every week. You have to have a system and a way to handle that data where you can make those changes. Every week, 5 new sources. How do you add that to your environment? You do that in Birst through automation. So we automate the blending of data in our 2-tier data architecture. So that's a big trend. We're seeing that within our customers, is that they see data as a process and how they can rapidly merge and blend multiple sources and then provide that to the business. In the Citrix case, it was 30 days. So 215 different sources into one source in 30 days. You can't wait 6 months, 9 months, or a year anymore. You need to have a system that supports your business to be able to make those decisions much faster. If you think about software as a service or cloud-based offerings, the promise there is that we will have you for life as a customer. We will continue to provide value to your business. If you think about on-premise purchases, I don't mean to be discrediting of those worlds, but I will purchase the software, you will give me an invoice and I will implement it, maybe with your services as a vendor, but maybe with some third-party services, but I will own and manage that environment myself. Cloud companies don't operate on that model. So we're really challenging the enterprise organizations to rethink how they see their assets. Is running a software and infrastructure an asset to you, or is it a burden? Can you bring more innovation by using a cloud service like Birst to be able to make it more fluid, to guarantee you levels of innovation and service levels where you as an enterprise don't have to think about the hardware, the software, the infrastructure. All you're thinking about is making better decisions with more data in a more fluid, I like the word you use there, Raoul, elastic way. So I think we're, the cloud applications market, which is obviously where we're the number one in the cloud BI market, is really challenging enterprise CIOs to rethink how could they work with a company like ours who provide that continual innovation, that continual service, rather than ship you some software and upgrade you in 3 years' time. Send you. We know the upgrade process can be a real challenge for large enterprises. We've got over 10,000 customers using Birst. And if we made a challenging upgrade, they may not renew their subscription. It's a different mindset for us. We have to really think about, going back to my first point, customer success. So with an enterprise organization, having that as a proposition to them, it can give them the opportunity to rethink data as a service. Not data as a project. How do you service enable data? How do you make data available to everybody? Well, that's our job. And we work in partnership with those enterprise companies to service enable internally as well as externally. Big data is useless without business value. Big data without business value is just an academic discussion. And business value doesn't have to mean financial value. It could, mean reducing poverty. There's a lot of different business values that we can discuss. What we see from a business perspective is that the business just want to create new value propositions, whether that's to a new product, whether that's to a new customer, whether that's to improve their supply chain, whether that's to improve their HR processes. And big data has a role there. But from a business user perspective, I don't know the difference between big data or small data, and that debate's been going around a long time. So if you look at SK Telecom is our customer in Korea. What they're doing is they're providing big data or analytics as a service. So they're taking all of their GPS data, they're analyzing that in Birst, and they're providing that as a service to their large enterprise customers. we can name a few of those, but if you look at them, say look at a large auto dealer, one of the largest from Germany, what they want to understand is how many people are walking past my store and how many people are coming in and buying cars or making transactions with me. Now that GPS data has been there for a long time. If I provide that to you as a service, and I'm allowing you to load your data up and compare that to your sales data, what does that mean? It means a very thin edge of competitiveness, but it could mean a very big difference between you and the other auto dealers. So working with companies like SK Telecom, where they're loading terabytes of new data into the Birst platform on a daily basis, providing that as a service where they can go and actually sell that service to auto dealers, as an example, or retailers or government organizations like national parks. Planning in Korea is all done using this data. That's a massive competitive advantage. It may sound like a very small thing, but when you combine GPS with sales data and marketing data, you start to get a fuller picture of what is impacting your business. Is it people walking past your stores? Is it people in social media? Is it your new products that you're launching from customer feedback? Where is your competitive advantage? And it doesn't just live in one place, as we know. So your big data is just one part of the data sources that you can bring in. Big data plus operational data plus social media data. You want to have a seamless environment where you can bring this into one place for your business users to make better decisions. What's unique about Birst in that environment, we have a two-tier strategy. Tier 1, a user-ready data tier. This user-ready data tier pulls data from your big data sources like your Hadoops, your environments, or your cloud environments like your Salesforces, or your on-premise environments like your SAP, combining those into one user-ready data tier. On top of that user-ready data tier, the business have access using your common sort of visualization environments like reporting and dashboarding and visualization, visual discovery or predictive capabilities. But the key to Birst is the two-tier. The user-ready data tier and the BI tier. By having those two tiers, I'm able to provide the business with consolidated view, single view, all of those BI cliches that have been around a long time in a rapidly delivered environment. How is it rapid? We're able to automate the process of building the user-ready data tier. That's where our patents sit. That's where we as a cloud vendor, we had to not only build the management of data, but we had to provide the visualization capability. So we take both the engineering side of the world, which is gathering and integrating and building your data model, and your consumer side of the world, which is your visualization. We put those two together in our our two-tier data strategy.